Hey friends, welcome back to the Gubba podcast. I'm Gubba, a first-time homesteader following in the footsteps of my homesteading forebears, and I talk about homesteading, prepping, and everything in between here on this podcast. Today, I want to discuss what you should be stocking up on right now. Most of us have seen the headlines, war, supply chain issues, and food shortages. And it isn't too late to start prepping, but one day it might be too late, so don't wait. I don't say that to scare you, but based on actual accounts of people who lived during war times and weird times in history, at some point it does become too late, and I don't want to be waiting in a mile-long line for bread in the future. Do you? Even if you think that is impossible, the security you feel by being prepared is truly priceless. To not have to fear every time you read a headline of impending food shortages or supply chain issues is truly comforting. And I want everyone to feel that same comfort that I do. All it takes is some time, a little planning, and you are well on your way. And with all this craziness going on, I would say the first thing to start stocking up on is the food that you eat. I have a whole podcast episode dedicated to how to build a food storage, and that involves buying more of what you eat, especially now, a few months after I made that podcast. The tides in the world have turned. There's now a war, which always brings uncertainty, and who knows how it will end up turning. Could erupt into World War III or could fizzle. I honestly don't know. I don't follow the news, but it's better to have some extra food you like lining your shelves before anything hits the fan. And prices of food are also climbing up, so you technically are saving your future self by buying extra now than buying later and spending more, if that makes sense. So go open up your pantry and your cupboards right now and see what is lining your shelves. What do you eat? Buy more of it. Purchase what is feasible to you, an extra box or two of pasta and more canned beans than usual. And it is up to you to determine what you and your family need and how much will suffice for you. And did you know that you can store pasta long-term in Mylar bags? It's super stinking cool. I love Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers, so you can buy your pasta cheap now, store it up, and save yourself time and money down the road. And sometimes bulk grocery stores even carry Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers. So look next time you're there at the grocery store. And one of my prepper friends was telling me how they scored on Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers at Winco recently. And I purchased my Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers on As Your Standard because I personally like ordering online. I don't really leave my house that often. And now I'm kind of laughing and chuckling at myself saying one of my prepper friends. But yes, I have a friend who preps too. So after you have stocked up on items that you eat, like pastas, canned goods, think about your baking essentials. We got flour, sugar, baking soda, baking powder, salt, and all the other goodies that fall into that sort of category. Do you have enough of those? You can make a lot with bare basics, so it is important to have those on hand. I recently heard from a friend that flour is going to skyrocket in price and become scarce due to the war in Ukraine, and Ukraine being one of the largest suppliers of grain. Side note, upon hearing things like this, I always question the validity. Not that I don't believe my friend, but I can't help but wonder if it is the media and they're trying to cause panic buying. And you know how the story goes of corporate greed and whatnot and trying to drive up prices and cause panic. And I don't like operating out of panic or fear, but flour is an essential. And I would have told anyone to stock up on it even before the Ukraine stuff started going on. And keep in mind that flour has a shelf life of generally 6 to 8 months past its printed date. But I'm baking and cooking with flour that is past its shelf date right now, and it works great. My stuff rises. My stuff turns out as good as it did if it was within the window of shelf life. So you can store flour in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers and have it last up to 15 years. And buying flour in bulk, then storing it in Mylar bags might be your best and most efficient way to go. And if you took the time, you could have flour for many years to come. I have tons of flour right now in wheat berries, and then I just have flour in the bags that I purchased. I freeze the bags when I get them to get rid of like any eggs or bugs. And I'm telling you, I'm still baking with stuff that is past its due date or goodbye date, and it is still good. But of course, that's up to you, and it probably depends on the kind of flour. I know wheat and white have different properties for storage life, so that's just something you'd have to look into for whatever kind of flour you decide to get. Maybe you're getting gluten-free. So the type of flour that you get is something that you're going to have to consider. And another way to stock up on flour is to purchase the wheat berries. So wheat berries are what you would grind to get the flour. So the flour that you're buying in the store, the all-purpose flour bag, the traditional bag, that's already been ground. And some people prefer this method because as soon as the wheat berries are ground into flour, they begin to lose their nutritional value. So it's best to eat flour right after it's been ground. And I know that's a lot of work. I don't do that really at the moment, but you can invest in a wheat grinder and purchase wheat berries to grind fresh as you are cooking or baking. And there are electrical grinders, and then there's actual hand crank grinders. And electrical grinders are nice because they do the work for you. But being a prepper, a hand crank grinder that doesn't require power is more appealing because I can still use that if the power goes out. Who knows what would happen? The grid goes down. It's the end of the world. I'm going to be there cranking out flour, okay? I'm all about the self-sufficiency life. And there are a variety of different wheat grinders available online. And I would suggest sourcing one that's high quality and is backed by good reviews. The last thing you want is to be in a fallout situation. Crap has hit the fan and you're grinding some wheat berries you purchased in bulk and then your grinder breaks. That would be such a bummer. Along with that, consider purchasing spare parts that would be necessary to keep your grinder running indefinitely and efficiently. And I believe some parts of the grinder will wear over time. So grab those parts now before there isn't a chance to, or the price skyrockets like we're seeing with everything else. And along with flour, think about your sugar. Do you have enough sugar to bake or cook with? You can't store sugar in a Mylar bag with oxygen absorbers because the sugar will turn into a rock. So don't try to do that. But pure cane sugar or beet granulated sugars store the best long term along with honey. Honey will last indefinitely. I mean, they found honey thousands of years old in Egypt and it was still edible. I don't know if I would have eaten it, but I mean, it was still edible, which is super cool. Some prepper back in Egypt probably was like, all right, we're putting honey here. It's going to last. And you know what? It did. So honey is a great way to store sugar long term. I bought a 10-pound bucket of raw honey from As Your Standard, and that is going to last me a long time. I love foods that never go bad, and think about sourcing a large bucket of honey for yourself and your family to keep indefinitely. I love that I don't have to do anything besides keep it in a clean plastic or glass container, and it will last for forever. I can use honey in cooking, baking, and for a sweet treat, so its uses are versatile. I also keep a large 5-gallon bucket of cane sugar in my pantry fit with a gamma lid, and this is my rotating granulated sugar that stays for long periods of times as well. So I kind of have a variety. I got the granulated that will last for a long time. And then I also have the honey that's just going to last for forever. You know, I put honey in teas and I also use honey in baking bread. So I can do so much with my stores of sugar. And as you are storing up your flour and sugar, think about ways you will use it. So for baking, often these essentials go hand in hand with other essentials like baking powder, baking soda, and salt. Do you have enough of those on hand? And you can purchase all of these in bulk from As Your Standard and club stores like Costco and bulk grocery stores like Winco. And I mean, you could probably even get these on Amazon. I'm pretty sure Amazon has like everything. And you can store baking soda indefinitely in an airtight, moisture-free environment. And this is where a vacuum sealer comes in handy because you can vacuum seal the small containers that baking soda comes in. If you purchase bulk, you can leave it in its large bag, but once it is opened, transfer it to jars and be sure to vacuum seal the jars. Baking soda loves to absorb odors, so make sure the jars aren't stinky or anything, because then you're going to have some stinky baking soda, and nobody likes that. Another way to store baking soda with vacuum sealing it is to transfer it to brown paper bags. So like the container, put it in a brown paper bag, then vacuum seal the brown paper bags, if that makes sense. So you're just vacuum sealing the container inside of a brown paper bag. There is a variety of ways to store baking soda, so that makes it easy to store. Plus, baking soda has a plethora of uses in cleaning, baking, so I always have some on hand. You can use it in toothpaste, laundry detergent, household cleaner, and more. And I make homemade laundry detergent too, along with bulking up on stuff that I use. And baking soda went into my laundry detergent, and I love it. Another essential to think of as you are stocking up is salt. Make sure you have salt. Salt is essential for life and it also makes our food taste better. I don't know about you, but I definitely want to have my food salted when crap hits the fan. I don't want to be eating any bland food. I need that salt. And contrary to like the mainstream narrative, like salt is good for you. I personally strive to have 1 to 2 teaspoons a day to keep my cells happy. And the key to keeping salt long term is to keep it cool and to keep it dry, like most everything else. And keep salt away from odors like you would baking soda because it will absorb those odors. And we don't want stinky salt, just like we don't want stinky baking soda. You can use food grade buckets, mason jars, and other moisture-free containers. I have purchased my salt in bulk from Costco and As Your Standard, and I have been so happy with both of those choices. So I would recommend either of those. A great and easy way to stock up on what you eat is to utilize your freezer. Say you enjoy hash browns, buy some frozen hash browns. Same thing goes with vegetables and fruit. Buy extra and store it in your freezer. You can make a plan of how you want to preserve your frozen goods, or if you even want to, you can freeze dry all of it, or you can the vegetables and fruit. You can dehydrate them. I know that my best purchase of 2020 was a garage freezer. That allowed me to stock up on food before the Rona, so I didn't have to venture to the stores often. I didn't have to leave my house. I don't like leaving my house, so I love this freezer. I didn't experience power outages often, so that didn't affect me. If it did, I would have considered other methods of preserving the frozen food. I believe frozen goods are a great thing to stock up on, especially if you rotate through them with what you and your family are eating and utilizing. Again, I buy my frozen items from Costco and As Your Standard. I've just found the best prices there and quality. I love getting organic, and both of these places offer organic options. And I would suggest bulking up on miscellaneous necessities as well. What are your hobbies? Do you enjoy painting? Get extra paint supplies now. Do you enjoy sewing? Get extra sewing supplies now. The cost of goods are, I don't know, they appear to be on the rise to me. Every time I go on Amazon or I'm out shopping for my stuff, I'm like, what the heck? It went up a little bit. So think about what gets you through your days and bulk up on those items. For me, I enjoy reading books. So I'm always on the lookout for good books, and that is an activity I can enjoy at any point in my prepping journey. Miscellaneous items can also include items such as paper towels, cutlery, blankets, candles, first aid, vitamins, etc. Your whole goal should be to strive to function the same as you do now under any conditions. It seems impossible, but you can get close to achieving that goal by considering how you function each day and striving towards achieving that goal one step at a time. And stocking up is looking towards the future and preparing for it. Not only are you preparing for any situation, but you are creating a comfort net for yourself and your family. And crazy scenarios like nuclear fallout aren't the only thing people prep for. Food storage and prepping supplies can even come in handy during a job loss. So we're not in a nuclear fallout. It's just something like a job loss, which happens. And a prep storage can help you get through something like that. The future is never certain, but you can try your best to provide normalcy for your future self. And I would like to thank you so much for tuning into my podcast. I hope that these episodes help you in your journey towards being self-sufficient and prepping. And we don't know what the future holds, but we can move forward in joy by being ready. And I hope that you have a wonderful, amazing day and don't do anything a Gubba wouldn't do.